Your Kansas City Chiefs are chasing immortality while the Buccaneers are coming to Arrowhead trying to find buried treasure today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Hey, Chiefs Kingdom, welcome back for another episode of Locked On Chiefs, your daily podcast covering the Kansas City Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for always making Locked On Chiefs your first listen every day. Don't forget, we're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube as well. I am your host, Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner, and this is Ryan Tracy, founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, RGR Football, and much, much more, and NFL 33 as well. Today, we are brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. There is a ton to talk about as we get ready to kick off this game on Monday night. A lot happened on Sunday. Still could be a lot happening before we actually kick off on Monday night because the trade deadline is Tuesday, so something to watch there. And we'll have you updated if anything does pop. But let's get into talking about this Buccaneers team. We're going to talk a little bit about X factors and predictions a little bit later. We'll talk about the must-win matchups in the next segment. But we're going to start off talking about Patrick Mahomes and his new options. There was an injury update over the weekend. Jared Wiley is out for the season, tore his ACL. He went to IR. They brought Peyton Hendershot up. Also made another practice squad move. We're not going to really worry about that right now. But DeAndre Hopkins is going to be more involved in this offense this week. Peyton Hendershot obviously is going to be another tight end in this offense this week. A couple of new options there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Ryan, how's it going today?
It's going, and I'm going to ask for everybody's patience and support here. I'm not in as bad shape as Wiley's ACL, but I am not 100%. I'll tell you that. Thanks for taking over the hosting here, Chris. I appreciate you. Hendershot, we did some work up on him preseason. I'm pretty excited about what he could bring to it as a guy that could be a go-to, but I don't think it affects his game plan terribly. It's going to be about Kelsey and Noah Gray at the tight end spot, and whatever else you filter in will take over from there. But it's working in DeAndre and how he and Travis in particular work off of each other. So I do think we will see some adjustment at what the routes are run, especially from the inside slot position when DeAndre's in it, as well as how they choose to push deep to give them some open space for those two guys. I'm looking at digs. I'm looking at deep outs a little bit more if I'm the Chiefs staff and having some guys that can take the top off and keep them a little bit cleaner. That's where I'd like to see them go right away.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see how they go about this because there is a lot of different things that could go into this game. And I understand, and I somewhat agree with you. Wiley is not going to make a big difference, but I do think that Jody Fortson was bringing something else to this roster. He's now gone as well. Obviously, we already knew that. He's been gone for a couple of days, but it is going to change how they're able to use 13 personnel and attack using 13 personnel. So I do think that could play into maybe a little bit of this game plan because I think that the Chiefs have used 12 and 13 personnel very effectively, and having a guy like Jody Fortson on the field has been something that has been something that has really helped them. At this point, obviously, Hendershot is a guy that's going to step in, hasn't had a ton of time in the Chiefs offense. I do expect him to play, though, on Monday night.
I would as well. And I think that they can balance that out by getting more balance in the run game, not having to put that much on the 12 personnel. Obviously, we've seen what Kareem Hunt has been able to bring to the run game. Again, a little banged up. Got to say for him a little bit. So I want to see a little bit more of what has worked in the past. McCole Hardman, come on up. I need more output from you. We need to see that you can do that. Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't think, barring a game time decision, is not going to be available. So
he's out.
It's going to be about it. Did they rule him out? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's about taking advantage of what you have, using your tools that are available this week to do that. I do like the Washington elevation. I don't know if they've announced that yet officially, but I would expect it as well. And I would like to see a little bit of some underneath work there for a more speedy guy as well. I do think the tight end situation does shift it back towards the pass game as the first up and the run game as supporting that rather than what we've seen the last few weeks. But you never know. You have to take what the defense gives you. And if that means more Kareem Hunt, I'm perfectly comfortable with it.
I'm comfortable with it. I don't know that I like it. And the reason I'm not sure I like it is because we also got a little bit of an update. Isaiah Pacheco is expected to come back at the end of November. The only reason I bring that up is because they have used Kareem Hunt over and over and over again over the last 3 weeks, and he has got to be feeling it. And while I agree that they need to run the ball, they need to be effective doing it. I think taking a couple of carries off his plate and maybe passing a little bit more, or maybe even just using Pirine, or maybe even Clyde's going to be available this week since they don't have 4 tight ends. Maybe Clyde's going to be a guy that can step in and get a couple of carries. I do think that they're going to need to do something a little bit different and take a little bit off Kareem's plate, mainly because you have to get to a point where you can keep Kareem healthy enough to where Pacheco can come back probably that last week of November against the Raiders would be my guess on that Friday game, and you can have a 1-2 punch. If you use him too much, you get away from that, and that hurts this offense. I think that they need to take a little bit off of his plate and maybe get Xavier Worthy involved a little bit more. Take some deep shots early in the game, force them to go back a little bit, and then just stay on the attack the rest of the game.
Yeah, I like that concept, and I purposely left X out of it because I think he is the X factor we'll talk about coming up later. You have to lay your foundational offensive options there, and I do think that while you can't zero in on DeAndre Hopkins to start this particular ball game, I think you got to pay more attention. And it shouldn't be like, oh, all of a sudden we have this new toy and we have to max it out like they've done with Kareem. It should be more gradual than that. But I also don't think that there's this steep learning curve. I think he's proven that he's able to walk in a couple days practice, and his experience level gives him the ability to fit in. So you might as well make use of it. Give a 2- and 3-pronged attack and then take what they give you.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I like about DeAndre Hopkins is even only being in the offense for 2 or 3 days, you saw Patrick Mahomes trust him on a deep out, trying to get out of bounds for a field goal at the very end of the first half last week. And while that seems like a simple play, it is all about timing. It's all about execution, and it's all about putting the ball on the body of the receiver in the right spot so he can get out of bounds, make the catch, get out of bounds, and stop the clock. That was done to perfection. And if they're on that same kind of page this quickly, that's going to be something that's going to really benefit Kansas City as those two get even more chemistry and are able to work together a little bit more.
Yeah, they'll just work right into a pattern. Pattern is what we have as well, and it comes down to the matchups that make the difference. We're going to do that coming up next.
With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has daily fantasy sports and makes it accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your money. Run your game all season long at Prize Picks. They make it simple, and they even invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So sign up today and you can get $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. You don't even have to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the Game Time app and use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $50 instantly after you play a $5 lineup. Super simple. Download that app, use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and get that $50 bonus for playing a $5 lineup. Super easy over at Prize Picks.
Now, one thing that comes in handy is understanding who you're going to be playing against. The number one matchup, when you look at efficiency in this ball game that's going to happen on Monday night, is when you're passing the ball. And you check the rankings and all that. It does make a difference. Overall passing efficiency is in the favor of the Bucs when they have the ball. They're number 8, I believe. The Chiefs are number 15. They have that edge there. But obviously, with Mike Evans hurting, with Chris Godwin out, with Sterling Shepard hurting as well, it does put a kibosh on it. We talked about it last week. The question becomes is how much magic is there in the other bit players that Baker Mayfield can go to? We've talked about Baker playing pretty much his best ball that we can remember, and I think that continues. I think he'll make some things happen. But I don't feel that the dynamic aspect of the passing game is really there to be had at this point. And so for me, it's about the Chiefs taking what they can and making life as difficult as possible on Baker himself. And that comes back to pressuring the man. How do you feel about pressuring Baker in general and their plan overall?
This would be a great game for Uche to have a instant impact. They need to get pressure. They need to get in Baker's face. And Mike Evans is out for this game, so he's not going to be available. That's a huge loss for them. Sterling Shepard is questionable. Bucky Irving is questionable. And Bucky Irving coming in questionable actually, I think, is a big deal as well, because that is a player that I think could really give Kansas City trouble at times and in different situations. So him coming in with a toe injury, whether or not he's going to be able to push off that and do what he normally does, that could help Kansas City's favor as well. But I like what you're saying about pressure. Kansas City needs to come after Baker. They need to get in his face. Chris Jones needs to get after him. Ward needs to get after him. Obviously, Karlaftis needs to as well. Uche, if he could step in and get pressure at the rate that he's been doing, generally speaking, when he's not the number one guy, and he has been the number one guy basically in New England most of the season. So don't really look at this season. Look at what he's done in the past, where he doesn't have to be that guy. He can't really be double teamed. I think that you get a chance to see him really get after the QB. So getting pressure on Baker is key, and taking away the chance of running the ball. If they can do those two things, this Chiefs defense and this Chiefs offense, I think, are going to have a good night on Monday night.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it's partially some positive omens that Bucky's not going to be full go if he goes in this game at all. If you guys saw last year's draft prep, Bucky Irving was one of my top backs because he can do a little bit of everything. He's capable in the run game. He's certainly capable in the pass game, and that is a mismatch against some of the Chiefs linebackers right now. So without that escape aspect of this offense, I think it does come back to what you do with Baker. And here's the interesting part. It's been pretty consistent through the season, but if you just take a look just at last week, even when he's under pressure, doesn't complete a whole lot of passes. When he's not, he has a tendency to throw some touchdowns. Here's the difference, though, is it's whether the blitz is effective or not, because if you blitz and you don't get pressure on him, he will eat it up. He has that experience. He has a quick trigger enough. He knows where to go with the ball. So if they feel that Uche can be that lightning rod, for lack of a better word, to get the pass rush off the go at the snap, and they do feel that they have to continue to bring pressure. They've brought blitzes all year long. The key is getting them home. So you have to run them exotically enough against a veteran quarterback like that. Some things that maybe he isn't expecting. You have to make sure that you are dialed in on your disguises this week, because whatever you do blitz-wise, it has to work or he will hurt you.
One of the big things that actually I think is also going to play in Kansas City's advantage is without Evans, without Godwin, you have two guys who have been here, have been in a lot of situations. They know football very well. You have younger receivers that are going to have to step in and have to see the game this exact same way that Baker Mayfield does, because if he's going to be seeing a blitz coming, they have to know what they're going to be checking into to be the hot route on that blitz. And if they don't see it the same way, that can just as easily be a pick as it can be an incompletion, and going, either way, going the other direction for Kansas City or an incompletion could, get the Chiefs off the field on third down. So I do think that, when you start talking pressure, start talking blitzes. I think Kansas City is going to continue to use their corners, maybe even their safeties and their linebackers to an extent, to get after the quarterback and send it after Baker in this game, because that's just who Steve Spagnuolo is. It would be great if they could get to a point where they can just get pressure with their front four, but they're not there yet. We'll see if Uche can actually help them get to that point. And maybe when he comes back in late November, that will be something that they can just get pressure and they won't have to send as many of the back guys. But getting to him is going to be important. And not having Mike Evans and not having Chris Godwin is going to be a huge hurt on them when they are going up against the blitz. I do like that matchup for Kansas City. The other thing I like for Kansas City is while they're going to be going up against Vita Vea on the offensive side, I still like this interior offensive line versus the Bucs and being able to run the ball. Now, they may not get the explosive plays that people are going to want, but being able to run the ball and being able to stay where you're moving the sticks on a regular basis and you're keeping things going, even if you're only getting 3 or 4 yards that continuously gets you first downs, you can bleed out the clock. You can keep the ball going. You can keep the offense going. You can put points on the board. That's what's important in this game.
I love that concept. You sound like me now, and that makes me happy. I will tell you, Vita is a unique athlete, and you do have to take him into account. CJ Brewer had a nice game last week as well on the interior. But in the pass rush, the guy that you're going to have to watch out is one of my draft crushes from a year or two ago. If you guys remember me talking about Yaya Diaby, you got to know where he is. And playing off of him as an outside linebacker on the left side, he'll be against Taylor for most of the game. I think they will flip him a little bit. But playing off of that is also Levante David, because I do think that they rush him in packages where they can play off of another pass rusher. So you got to keep an eye on that. I think Joe trying Shianka on the other side, I feel fairly good about that matchup with the young tackles on the left. So let's see if they play games and they flip stuff over. They have to be able to adapt. That's probably the number one thing that the offense is going to have to get into.
Yeah, and Wanya Morris has to step up. Wanya Morris has to step up and have a big game. That's all there is to it. He needs to get to a point where he can settle down and either take the job, or they need to move back to Suamata'i and try to grow through the pains, because you cannot continuously have situations like you had last week. I know Suamata'i really struggled early on in the year. Don't disagree with that at all. But you need to have somebody that's at least playing well. And right now they don't have a left tackle that's playing well. You cannot continue to have those types of holds on a regular basis.
Yeah. And just thinking outside the box, you got to have somebody you can get ready for Pittsburgh, because TJ Watt's out there and there's going to be something coming. So let's see.
Von Miller and
get ready. Absolutely. There's always something coming down the pike. So how can they get ready for it? We're going to tell you the X factors and our predictions coming up next.
Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, and that's right, free online courses right now, including Introduction to Free Market Economics. You can check out some history with the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, and even check out The Great American Story, A Land of Hope. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever you want, you can tune in whenever you want, and you can finish whenever you want. You can go deeper with readings and quizzes and discussions, or just sit back and enjoy the lectures. Go over to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. It's at hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers, you can bet just $5 and you get $150 back in bonus bets if you win right now. FanDuel Sportsbook, the app, gives you everything that you need to get bets in place for the NFL all in one place. So when you got a hunch in the middle of the game, you want to check out the latest stats, you live by that play-by-play, you can do that and much more in the same page right where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com today and join. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 and official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
It's always
X factors
to figure out who's going to be the guy. Yeah, that stands out.
Who's the X factor in this game for you? For me, when I start looking at this game, it comes down to the Chiefs passing game, and DeAndre Hopkins is really that guy for me. Obviously, Xavier Worthy, you'd love for him to be a huge part of this game plan. You'd love for him to get going and have some deep shots and get a deep touchdown. But if you can get a guy, and DeAndre Hopkins doesn't have to do a ton, but if he can get 5 to 6 catches and 60, 70 yards, that is plenty in this offense. And that gets him going in the right direction for a tough matchup coming up against the Broncos on Sunday.
I agree with you completely. And to get the Chiefs offense going, yes, you have to address Vita Vea, the guy that you have to attack. And on the X factor side is Chris Braswell, in my opinion. If you can get after him, You can probably move the ball on the ground, and that is the key to success for Kareem Hunt and getting the churn started for this offense. On the opposite side, the guy that I think you got to be a little bit wary of from the Bucs has not gotten a ton of pub, but is another guy that can step up and has been in critical situations before. That's Jalen McMillan. They're going to need someone in their passing game to try to step forward. My bet would be that it's him. And with the Chiefs nickels in the situation that they're in, you got to keep an eye on where he's at. So don't miss Jalen McMillan against the Chiefs secondary.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big matchup. Joshua Williams is going to be getting a start. Najee Johnson is out. So Williams is going to be getting a start. Christian Roland Wallace is going to be playing a ton. Keith Taylor is going to be playing a ton. Corner position is really hurting for the Chiefs right now. That is going to be something that they're going to probably try to take advantage of. Nice thing is, like we've talked about already, no Evans, no Godwin. That kind of helps the corner situation to an extent, but it's still going to be a matchup that I expect the Bucs are going to try to exploit.
They're going to have to. So without drawing this out and before my voice is completely gone, let me just say that Monday Night Football is a special time, and I think the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes in particular, is able to raise their game when they're on it. It is never something that you wish for the team to have, the team you're playing to have significant injuries, but that's the case. When that's the case, there's nothing you can do about it. I do think the Chiefs take advantage of it. I don't think it's particularly like the closest game. I've been predicting that they're just on the edge of getting to 30 points. I think they hit it this week against a defense that I don't think is quite prepared for them, even as they fumble through their way, getting DeAndre integrated in the offense. I have the Chiefs winning this 31-17 going away in Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and I can't say I blame you too much. I think that when you look at this game and you look at how it's going to play out for Kansas City, it is a question of can they finally get the offensive ball rolling on a regular basis and continuously move the ball, and getting DeAndre Hopkins going really could help them along that way. And you talk about injuries, and I agree with you. You never want to have another team have significant injuries coming into a game. But Kansas City's been missing 3 of their top offensive weapons almost the entire season at this point. So, you have to play who you have. It sucks for everybody in the NFL that we can't have, 100% people being healthy all year long, but it's the reality. I'm looking at this game. I agree with you. I think Kansas City's probably going to get to that 30-point mark. I'm going to go 31 Kansas City, probably 17 on Buccaneers. I look at it, and to me, their offense has to do a lot with almost nothing as their weapons, and they're going up against a fantastic Chiefs defense. And I do think the Chiefs are going to get pressure, and they're going to get pressure on Baker early, and it's going to cause him to do some things that probably cause them to turn the ball over, hopefully. That's kind of the way I'm looking at this game.
I agree, and these teams are very closely matched. You win the turnover ratio, you win.
Yeah, and I have to ask you this question. Is this the first week that Mahomes doesn't have a pick?
With Winfield out there, I don't know that I'm ready to say that. I'll put the percentage at 75% yes, but there's always that other quarter.
Well, Winfield didn't practice on Saturday, and he's questionable for this game. Could play, but we'll see on that. So something to watch for
the
there.
90% yes.
Yeah, if he doesn't play, I think that's a great call on your part. I think that this is a game Mahomes tries to take it to a whole nother level because he's going to need it in the coming weeks. They're going to go up against a defense in the Broncos, and then they get the Bills in 2 weeks. So got to continue to get better. And hopefully this team is going to be healthier as they get towards the Bills and the Broncos in the coming weeks. Sorry, the Broncos and the Bills in the coming weeks. That is going to be it for us today. Thank you all for listening. Let us know in the comments down below what you think and what you think the score is going to be for this game for the Chiefs versus the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. Really looking forward to it. If anything breaks, we will have you covered. Don't know if we'll get an extra show in or not. Depends on what happens with Kansas City, but we're going to see what happens. Trade deadline is coming close, and Chiefs seem to be in on a lot of different players. Thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you tomorrow.